Heart. Real people having real conversations about things that matter most to you. I'm Shari Alyse.
I'm Cyrus Webb.
I'm Rich Osagara.
I'm Patrice Tanaka.
And we are Heart to Heart. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Heart, a brand new interactive talk show where you choose the topics. We're so excited to be here with you today and to welcome you back to Heart. So, a little over a week ago, we were in a very different place. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we dive into that, I want to remind you too, please engage in our conversation today as you guys are our co-hosts. And then also we would love for you to please share this very, very important episode. So without further ado, let us talk with the rest of the Heart to Heart fam. Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
Doing really good.
So excited to be back here with you guys today. You know, as I just mentioned just a few seconds ago, about a week ago today, the four of us were sitting here having a conversation talking about the hope of 2021 and all the things that we were bringing into it and what we had hoped for ourselves and the world, and really having no idea what was actually happening while we were speaking that. And hello, welcome everybody. Nice to see you guys here. Yes, you're a co-host, Cody. So what we really came to find out as soon as we got off of here is that there was an attack that was happening at the Capitol. And I'm curious for you guys, I know for myself that it was a completely moment from being here with you guys, and then this complete just drop down. I walked out into the living room and my heart stopped. So I'm just curious what that moment was for you guys and how you've been able to really wrap your mind around that. I'll ask you, Cyrus, go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. It was really different, right? I mean, we just wrapped up the show and I was feeling good, just like I'm sure everyone else was. And I was seeing some of the feedback that was going on before I actually went from the show to actually looking at the news. And then I was like, okay, this is not as good as what I just experienced, right? So I totally agree with you, Shari. It definitely was one of those things that kind of gave you some pause.
Absolutely. What about you, Patrice? What that was like for you?
Yeah, I had high hopes for the new year, and I still do. And coming off of the high of Heart to Heart and the low of seeing, our Capitol being mobbed was stunning. And then everyone's reactions and then the reporting, and that continues to this day to the impeachment hearing right now. It's it's breathtaking, and I'm really grateful for moments like right now where we could take a breath and talk.
Absolutely. I'm going to get to you just a second, Rich, but what's interesting is that it was a lot to hold on to, that we were just, especially talking about joy and talking about all these things. And then I had just said, Rich, I don't know if you remember, but I had said that last year, 2020 was challenging as far as, keeping the joy, trying to find the balance. And there we were talking about it. And then all of a sudden it was insurrection. Let me know your thoughts about that.
It was crazy. We had so much excitement building up to this first episode of the show. And then to see this playing out in the Capitol. I was in New York City for 9/11, and it took a bit for me to correlate it, but I was noticing I was having the exact same type of response. I watched the towers go down, with my own eyes. And that same just guttural, just inexplicable horror to see what was happening at our Capitol. It's a lot to process. And of course, now we're finding out that it's far worse than the images that we actually saw on TV, and will continue to unfold. And there's potentially more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that, I can get overwhelmed by this, because one of the things that the four of us talked about before this show began, before we actually, was about the things that we were okay talking about, what we wanted to talk about, where our passions were, where our expertise lied. And politics and all of this has not always been something, has been never anything that I wanted to talk about. And it's only been after the last 4 years and really seeing, and I know that, I'm just going to say, seeing what has happened with this country, with, I believe, under the leadership of President Trump. And I understand that that's a big statement, and I understand that there are people who are watching that who are in support of this. But part of this show is about having real conversations. And if 2020 taught us anything, or taught me anything, is that we can't keep sweeping things under the rug, and we have to be willing to talk about it. And it's just in a way that we're willing to talk about it, and the ways. So I'd love to know any of your guys' thoughts about your viewpoints. I know a lot of them, but I'd like to know your viewpoints on whether you believe that this was incited by President Trump, or if you believe that it was a select few people, a percentage, that just did this all on their own. Anybody can chime in.
Pick me.
Go ahead.
Well, I want to say, I've been no fan of the current occupant of the White House this entire time. But what happened at the Capitol, he doesn't deserve the credit for all of it, because this is from the beginnings of our country. Our country was founded on racism and eradication of the other Native Americans. In the beginning, even Irish people, Italian people, Polish people, who now we look at and say, oh, they're white. They were not considered white for a long time. And so what we have seen, and what he does get credit for, is pulling off the Band-Aid that's been hiding this cesspool, this pus that's been brewing in pockets of our nation. And so the Band-Aid has been ripped off. We saw that happen in full force at the Capitol, and with all the chatter that's happening about what's to come, what's planned, additional sieges of all 50 state capitals, including in DC, in these coming days. That's no small thing, and that didn't happen accidentally. It didn't happen because he said, let's march to the Capitol on that day. It happened. It's been happening. It's been being planned for a very long time. And I think in order to have unity, there must be accountability for what's taken place, but there has to be a deeper look, not just punishment to those who participated, but how and why is this persisting, and how do we change that? It's a much deeper conversation to have. And so in a very strange way, I can be grateful to the president for allowing all of this to come to the surface. I don't condone it. I don't appreciate much of what he's done, but here it is. And so now we get to, as citizens of this country, decide what are we going to do next, and how do we move forward, so we can get to some place in the future of unity, which doesn't mean we all have to agree with each other.
Right. Absolutely. I just want to highlight, Angie, we asked how can we move forward as a nation, and Angie says we can move forward as a nation because we're one, and our ripples of love do make a difference. Being in the spiritual community, I absolutely agree with that. What I learned, though, is that love takes action. Love has feet. And so saying we're all love, and I'm not saying you're saying this, Angie, but for a lot of people I know, and in your community, Rich, too, because we deal with energy healers and light workers, it's always, let's all remember that we're one and everything. Well, oneness doesn't show up as not allowing everybody to have equal rights. Oneness doesn't show up as, storming a Capitol. Oneness. So we do need to talk about this stuff. And I think that you're absolutely right as far as this was unearthed. Trump did not do it. It was already there. He just brought it to light. Patrice, any thoughts on anything that's been said?
No, I totally agree with what you're both saying. If this was underlying, our society, then we need to unearth it so that it can see the light of day, so that we can address the issues that have long been simmering and that continue to divide us. And our new president and his cabinet is going to very excited that we're going to have gender equity in all of the appointments that he's made, and his cabinet is going to reflect the makeup of the diversity of our population. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that this is going to be jarring from people who are not used to this. And so I think any change to the status quo is always jarring, upsetting, and there are going to be people who are not going to be happy with the change. So, but I think that everyone keeps saying that we are all Americans, and so if that is true, and we are all Americans, and we unite, especially when in the most adverse of times, well, this will be a test of the spirit of our nation and the strength of our democracy. So interesting times ahead. And I agree that if we can listen to hear and not to use our words as a cudgel, and to weaponize our words, I think that, that's the best way that we can move forward.
Absolutely. I because when we talk about unity, so I just want to say that I've always been that person that's like, we shouldn't see color. This was years ago where and now I've realized, of course we should see color. Saying that we don't is like saying people don't exist, and, talking. So I've always had all of these, pie in the sky. This is, I believe in people and I believe in us, and I do. But I think what is so important that we need to address is the fact that there are millions of people who agree with what has happened. And so just because somebody leaves the office doesn't mean that those beliefs are not still there. And so
Right.
How do we address that? How do we all come together and find a meeting ground on this when our views are so opposite of one another? Hey, Cyrus.
You know what? The joys of live television, right?
Yes. Just curious.
Sherry, I was just going to say it's an interesting thing. Now, I believe that I'm a person, and you know this from knowing me over the years. I'm a person who always sees the glass half full. I'm a person who believes in people. I totally get your point, though. I think, there is work to be done, right? I mean, I think like with anything that we experience in the world, be able to get to the root of it. And you're right, one person is not it. There's more there, and I think it is incumbent on us to be able to listen. And I know you have really worked to make sure that people are heard, but I think also getting to understand what is it that makes people feel the way they feel, because I think that's what influencers, which is what I think any of us can be and do. I think that's the thing. That's how people are able to gain influence. They tap into that thing that makes people feel connected, makes them feel seen, and that's how they're able to get this power. So I think for us to really get to it, I think we have to be able to realize what is that thing that is connecting these individuals that maybe we can be able to learn from, but also to show a different way of doing it.
Yeah, very well said. I think it's understanding of offering the understanding to see people's viewpoints, to see why it is that they make the decisions they make. What is it that they're fearful of? Why is it that they're supporting? And I got to be honest and say, I have family members who support Trump. I have friends who support Trump. I have that, and I've really gone out of my way to understand, it's this reason and it's that reason, it's policy related. But I did find it, and I still find it really challenging, because I I have come to find that it's more than policy related. For me, it's morals. And for me, it's, talking about unity and seeing for 4 years that what's been called for is division, pitting one side against the other side. And when you're constantly being told that over and over again, how one side is bad and one side is good, it's hard then to see each other in a space where you see good in everybody. So with that said, I really think that it's going to take moving forward for us, as Cyrus said, to find this common ground, to be able to understand each other, because otherwise we're going to keep seeing each other as, the enemy.
Well, I just want to add quickly to this, from a psychological point of view, because this is really what we're dealing with at the root of all of this. The human brain is designed to be right. It's designed to keep us alive. And so anything that threatens us, or that is a perceived threat externally, we will do automatically, even subconsciously, whatever we can to protect ourselves, and even by extension the people around us that we love. And so if you think about 76,000 people who voted for Trump, who voted for him because they believe in him.
Million.
Yes, that's what I meant. Million.
Only.
Just a zero difference. There's a tremendous number of people in the country who cast a vote because they believe in what he stands for, or what that party stands for, or has stood for, or used to stand for. I think there's a lot of confusion about what it stands for anymore. But when we just tell someone they're wrong, and here's 85,000 reasons why, it won't matter, because the defense mechanism is automatically there to protect why they're right. And so there's just a deeper work. And, the work is individually. What can we each do individually for ourselves to develop ourselves mentally, spiritually, emotionally? It's our own internal work that all we can control. And then with that, we can see how we might support others in that. But there's a tremendous amount of work and an approach that has to be different from what we have been experiencing and anything politics has ever done. If there ever really will be unity, then a very different approach to understanding each other as human beings has to surface. Mm-hmm. That's my view.
I'd love to see a show, a news show, a cable talk show that really presents, the good news of bipartisanship, right? Because we have the far left and the far right media. But we need to see more of, groups actually reaching across the aisle and doing things together for the benefit of all. And I'm just wondering if one of the first pieces of legislation that is undertaken could be something that both parties agree with, and so we can get off on the right footing of and do things together. If we try, and let's start with this, and let's get a lot of media coverage of that and share it on social media so we can build the case for there is, a desire to move forward together. But you don't really see that very often.
Well, Patrice, I'm hoping that this is the start of these conversations for people. And the more that they sit with us and join us every week, that it's going to give permission, that it's okay to have these, that we don't have to argue, and that we can come to an understanding. So, y'all, this is a fast show. And so this is the part of the show what we call Heart to Heart. And this is going to be an opportunity for us each week to be able to open our heart to heart vault, to be able to choose the topics and the questions that are important to you. And so we still want you to write in and let us know what you want us to discuss. But before we do that, I wanted you to get an opportunity to be able to meet each one of us, to know a little bit about all of us behind the scenes. So as I said last week, if you joined us, we're not just a bunch of talking heads that you're like, who the heck are they? So this week I wanted to talk to my good friends, I wanted to share a little bit more about our co-host and executive producer, the lovely gentleman sitting next to me, Cyrus Webb, who is a media personality. He's like he dominates the media, let's just say that, more than a personality. He is also an author and a motivational speaker. And Cyrus, I know that in all the work that you've done, it's always been about other people. And so I know that being on this show is a completely different type of format because it's more about sharing parts of you. So I'm curious, just before we dive into a little bit of your background, what it feels like to show this side of yourself off to the world.
Scary.
Yeah.
I mean, but Shari, I want to ask you on a selfish note, am I freezing up?
You're a little pixelated in and out. You're in and out, but we're good. As long as we're communicating, we're good.
You know what? But by week 3, I'm even more progress on this. but yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is scary. I mean, I have built a brand based on conversations with others, and people really don't know my thoughts really about anything unless you're in my inner circle, right? So, when first we kind of talked about this a little bit last week, but when you first were telling me about the idea for the show, I was excited about it, but I was also thinking, oh boy, this is going to be different because it definitely takes me outside of my comfort zone.
Absolutely. So that's why I was excited, because I was like, I know that this is not who you like, what you're comfortable showing. And so let's go back a little bit. You have taken quite a journey, and it's something that you've become more and more open about in the last few years, sharing more of your story. I'm curious, when you were a young boy, if when you look back at him, is there something, do you see the same person then than you see now, or that you are now?
It's funny. At the core, as you know, for self-sharing, honestly, I am a guy. My mother even tells me stories that I was not a friendly kid. I was a kid who I did what I needed to do. If my customer, I played because that's what I was told I was supposed to do. But I was so much more comfortable by myself. So I'm still that same guy.
I don't know if you guys are having any tech issues.
Still more comfortable by myself.
Are you guys having trouble hearing Cyrus? I am, and so welcome to live television, as you said. So let me know if y'all are hearing okay, or if it's just on my end. So, all right. So we're having some technical difficulties here with Cyrus. Why don't we? All right. So why don't we go back? Yes, everyone's having trouble here. And Cyrus, are you there? All right. Well, I'm just going to share a little bit about. I'm going to share. Hey, Rich. Thanks for joining me back here.
Hi. I don't know how it happened, but we're back.
Nothing. Thanks, everybody. So nothing like live television, right? So what I wanted to share about Cyrus, which really is one of the reasons why I wanted him to be a part of this, was the fact that Cyrus didn't, think about really changing people's lives. I know, he's talked very openly about being he's attempted suicide a couple of times. And it's a story that I was hoping that he would be able to share a little bit today. But what I love about him and why he's important to Heart is because he comes from this background of someone who perseveres. He comes from a background of someone who is resilient. He comes from a background of someone who shows up as himself. And that is what is so important about Heart to Heart, and why we're here is because it's important for all of us to show up as ourselves. So I don't think we're getting back to the Cyrus interview.
No, but how about if I say something and maybe Patrice says something, because we'll talk about him and he can smile on the other side. But I just met Cyrus a couple of weeks ago, right? And I see him on social media like blowing up my feed with, I just brought on, Target. I just got onto Amazon. Like, this man is like, I'm like, what is going on over there? How is he doing these things? It's very inspiring. And that, Shari, just you saying right now that that he had attempted suicide twice, that's no small thing, to just for us to put out there, right? And to think about like how I see him and the drive that he has and the vision that he has to make a difference on this planet, it's extraordinary when you think about the people who are successful at those at those suicides. What could they have brought to the world if they believed in themselves more, or were given an opportunity, or I think this is a thing on a different show for Cyrus to talk about, to be able to share with us, what brought him back from the brink, and how does that fuel the desire he has to make the most of his life, so that as many people in this world can be positively affected by the goodness that he's putting out there. So Cyrus, you're amazing. I barely know you, but you have lit a fire under my butt to do, everything I can. There's no excuses for me seeing you.
Thanks, Rich.
I appreciate it.
So, Cyrus, I'm going to ask you, I'm sorry, we're coming to the end of the show, so we just tried to talk about you.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you just this one last question. You've accomplished a lot in this.
No. Hey, the show must go on.
So I'm going to ask you this question. You accomplished a lot in this world. You have all of these external achievements. You have all of these amazing things that you've done. And then, of course, as Rich just mentioned and we touched on, you have this this internal thing that you've moved through and overcome. I'm just curious for you, what you want your legacy, or what you believe your greatest achievement has been in your life, and what you're most proud of. I think he's on delay. Should I answer for him? I think we're done with Cyrus for today, guys. You're just gonna have to tune in next
Sarah,
week.
I'm not sure if you
Cyrus.
can hear me.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Can you hear me, Shari?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
You got about 30 seconds if you heard my question.
He has the best laugh.
I know. Did you? All right. So Melissa Banks said Cyrus Webb is so amazing. Not Webb's, just one. Cyrus Webb is so amazing. He makes you want to work harder because he goes in.
I hope that people think I made them feel seen.
That's nice. I like that.
Well, that is a way to wrap up Heart to Heart, because this show is all about making sure that you guys are seen and that you guys are heard. And so we want to thank you for tuning in. We know it's been an interesting show, lots of stuff, outside of the control that happens. Please be sure to join the conversation. Email us a question that you have that you want us to open up and dive into. Email us at hearttohearttalkshow@gmail.com. Make sure that you tune in every week. We'll be back here next Wednesday, so don't you go anywhere. And if you want to stay updated with us directly, you can text HEART to the phone number 310. There you go, 349-3891. You guys, I want to thank you so much for hanging in there today with tech challenges, with what's happening in the world, and just being a part of Heart to Heart and being a part of our hearts. Thanks, Rich, Cyrus, and Patrice. And we'll see you all next week on Heart to Heart. Remember, take care of yours and each other's. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.